This, I think we should be good. Let me get my audio in line. My voice and everything sounds fine, right? Sounds normal, correct? Hopefully.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sounds good in here.
Sick. I'm like worried, like this new. I got a new, I guess, some new hardware, and it's like. I think we should be good. Let me get my audio. There you go. So, yeah, I got some new hardware and stuff that I'm like. Not like trying out, I'm using it, but like, I mean, it's new. I'm just waiting for something to like go wrong, so. But let's get into this and we'll kind of chat as we kind of go. So today, right, is the last day of level design, right? A lot of this is pretty set in stone already, right? The kind of major ideas that we kind of established for this is already kind of set. Now, what we want to do is actually just start finishing it off. A lot of this is like placeholder. A lot of this is, you know, it's fine for a second on like, you know, when you zoom out and you do like a thumbnail view, right? It's not bad, right? But when you zoom in, it's missing a lot, right? There's a lot to be desired here, and you know, just things aren't looking as cool as, you know, we kind of want, right? And usually that comes from like the just lack of life, you know what I mean? Like just a lot of like, you know, it's just one panel, or it's like, you know, just kind of not so, I guess, thought out things. So what we want to do today, right, this is about rendering. We've already covered like some rendering ideas before. You know, you've seen me do it where I'll kind of like start finishing things, but this is kind of how I'm going to try, not something new, I do this all the time, but I'm going to show you how easy it actually is to start making something feel like lived in and I guess less sterile, right? And the biggest issue with this right now is very sterile, right? And I can't finish it today. There's just not enough time for that. Like usual, you'll see it on the next pass. But I guess this is going to be the beginning of how I approach that, right? Because a lot of this, right? Let me just pull up this kind of red line real quick. A lot of this is like, okay, cool, we have a sign there, but there's no actual sign, or there's like a, you know, the banner type thing here, or we see some lights or a door and windows, but it's very sterile, right? It's not like it's not really anything yet. And what we need to do is make this feel real, because right now it's basically just a shape. A lot of these are just shapes that we need to actually, you know, do something with. And you know, today I'm going to kind of show you how I generally approach it, especially in a sci-fi setting. You can do this in fantasy settings as well. It's the same exact process. It's just set dressing and kind of completing things. I know we did a set dressing pass already. That was more set dressing for level design as a whole. This is more of like just finishing a painting off, making it feel like there's actually, you know, I don't know, something, right? So right now we're going to kind of focus on our focal points, right? So for those that don't know me, or I guess are kind of watching this without having taken a class of mine before, what I always recommend, right? Focus on the focal point, right? And the foreground. If you can do those two places, your painting is going to be mostly done, right? There's little things here and there, like these areas that probably need a little bit of attention. But we're going to be okay if we kind of leave that alone, right? Not that you should, but when you run out of time, at the very least, the place that we're going to look and the area that's closest to us is rendered, so it feels more complete. Versus if I spent all my time on this back building, right, and this front area, the main area was kind of unaddressed, it just doesn't look as good, right? So the key thing that I'm going to show you today, right, is it's very simple, but it's not thought of that often, right? And it's actually kind of, it's like stupidly easy. Like it's like weirdly easy. But you'd be surprised how often people don't do it, right? So what we're missing here is a lot of life, right? It's like, you know, when I was breaking down some of those train kind of station entrances and some of those things before, a lot of this was like, I don't know, very there's a lot of stuff to it, right? There's a lot of things like, you know, different tiles, different signs, just, you know, just life happens to this place, right? Because a lot of these places have been there for like, you know, decades, right? So there's just going to be grime, build up, different materials, fixes, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But when we're designing from scratch, which is what we kind of did here, right? If you remember from our block out, right? From basically nothing to something, right? It's really hard to get that because, you know, you have to think about it. You have to really kind of force your, I guess, understanding onto this place. And there's a lot to do, right? It's a whole city block, right? It's not just like one location. It's like there's, you know, like 5 or 6 different buildings here, right? So what do? Oftentimes what I like to do is find places like this, right? This is the reference that we had from those previous weeks where I was kind of breaking things down. And literally what I'm going to do is just copy this, but like slightly different, right? And it sounds funny, but it's that easy, right? We're going to grab this. I'm not going to like, you know, distort it or anything, but what I am going to do is try to match it in not a 1-for-1 sense, like it's not going to be the exact same thing, but it's going to be represented the exact same way. So I'm going to bring in this picture just to kind of show you. So we have handrails, right? We have, other handrail, 2 handrails, right? We have some conduit pipe. We have like this piece of like concrete beam. We have this sign here. We have, I don't know, bird poop, you know what I mean? Things like that. We have like lights or windows. I'm assuming they're lights. They're probably lights at night. Whatever the hell this thing is, it looks like something to kind of catch a gate. You know what I mean? I'm assuming it's some sort of gate. And then there's like arrows and stuff. And then there's like, you know, tiles that have some sort of like grip thing on it, so you probably don't fall when it's wet. You have weeds, right? Little things like this. Instead of like trying to just make that up on my own, I'm just going to take this exact thing. I'm going to make a rail. It's not going to be this exact one, but it's going to be represented the same way. You know what I'm saying? And this is how we're going to try and get something that has a little bit of uniqueness to it, right? Because oftentimes, whenever we're designing, it usually just lacks life, right? And the best way to do this is just pull from life, right? Reference it. You don't have to copy it 100%, right? We're not doing a still life here or a plein air, right? But we do want to represent every piece there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have this kind of pulled up, probably on my second monitor, just so it's not in the way for streaming purposes. But just know that that's what I'm pulling from, right? So.
Wait, you aren't streaming on Discord.
Oh shit! Damn it! You guys are telling me this now. Son of a. Screen 1, go live. So for those in the Discord that didn't see what I just did, yeah. So basically, I have this photo here. This is the photo from the previous week. I think it was like 2 weeks ago when we were kind of like breaking down some of the materials. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of translate all this into a just sci-fi version of it. Right? Pretty simple. It's not going to be 100% the same, but it will be strikingly similar, right? Because, all I have to do now is like put a handrail in there. It could be whatever handrail, but it has to be a handrail. All these arrows, all these like little things like this crack in the cement, these weeds, bird poop, stuff like that. And that's kind of how we're going to go about this. So cool. All right. With that in mind, so what I was saying earlier as well, right? I'm going to kind of focus on the kind of the main area here. In this case, it's this entrance here because I want the most amount of detail to kind of be, I guess, put into this area because this is really the focal point, right? A lot of this is cool, but it's not really that necessary. It's more like set dressing and flavoring, but it's the areas that we need to be in. That's what I want to kind of focus on. So I'm going to kind of focus here, probably start moving up after that, right? Just kind of finish off this this banner billboard type thing. And then I'm going to move to this foreground area if we have time. But, we may or may not. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So that's really about it, right? I think, it's not as crazy as you might think. But what does happen, right? I think a big... I'm gonna say issue with a lot of like more entry level work that I've seen is, we kind of go about this far where like we design all the cool cut lines and do all these things, but we don't like zoom in and start like finishing things off because it's a lot of work. First and foremost, there's a lot to do here, but it's necessary, right? It it is part of the design, right? You need this to feel real because when somebody goes and builds this, right, they're gonna have to, do something with this. And if you just kind of leave it as like, when I look at this, it's so like loose and messy. There's a lot, I guess there's a lot of the block out is still there, and that's not really that helpful. So what I have to do now is kind of translate a lot of these, extra little things just to kind of make it better, right? So cool. All right. So first things first, I'm gonna start with this sign, right? I'm just gonna make this something. And like, because I have a general design kind of form language happening, right? I already know what I'm doing. So I don't really need to worry too much about, I guess, the kind of things that are happening. All I want to do is just make sure this sign feels like a sign like this. You know what I mean? Like this one in the middle right there. It needs to have the same general ideas. I'm literally just gonna copy it, and just or get as close as possible. But we'll change some things here and there. So cool. But
gotta make you have holograms.
oh yeah, dude. And like it's that easy, right? It's a lot of that stuff where all you're really doing is like just deciding like, okay, cool. Instead of this physical sign, I'm just gonna do a hologram or whatever. But this is like a lot of the life that we're kind of looking for. I think like a big issue with sci-fi, especially like what I'm showing you right now, is that it's just lifeless. It's just like there's nothing there. There's no real culture to kind of pull from this. But when you start actually doing like real things, it really does start, looking like something. People can kind of understand it for what it is.
Did you watch The Creator?
I haven't yet. I need to though. Maybe I'll download it and like. Is it on a streaming service right now?
It's on Disney Plus of all places. I think for Hulu possibly.
Is that a Disney movie?
No, it's just that Disney is merged with Hulu. So
Oh.
I believe in some instances the shows show up on Disney Plus.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's on Hulu also.
Ah. I need to check it out. Is it good?
Yeah, I think it's great. The internet doesn't seem to think that the writing was that strong, but didn't it win an Oscar for best visual effects last year?
Oh
And I
shit.
thought the writing was I really enjoyed it. But it's bar none best sci-fi done on film since Blade Runner 2049.
Oh shit.
So you've got to watch it.
How's it hold up to, I guess, Dune? Is Dune sci-fi? I mean, yeah, I guess so. I guess it is.
Yeah, I haven't seen Dune 2.
Oh, nice. Yeah, people are freaking out about it, so I was like, I don't know.
But,
The Creator is literally sci-fi concept art, the movie.
Ah.
Yeah, it's like everything that Chris does put into a movie.
Sick.
But what was so successful about it, for one, it was shot on a shoestring budget compared to Hollywood stuff. But the director Gareth Edwards, who also directed Godzilla 2014, he shot on location in Thailand, and then after the fact they added digital CGI into the scenes that they shot, so they would shoot a Thai village or countryside, and then they would add architecture that seamlessly blended in with the huts and farm buildings that were already there.
Oh, sick.
And like there's a Buddhist temple, but it's replaced by a sci-fi structure amongst all of the Buddhist culture.
Yeah.
So it makes it feel very grounded, even though you're looking at very concept arty, fun hard surface designs, because they're branded and there's signage and it's integrated in already with the lights there.
Oh, that's cool.
So you may enjoy looking at it.
I'm so like it's funny because like I do watch a lot of movies, but like I'm so behind right now. It's because of like just life as a whole. But yeah, I need hopefully soon I can kind of get back to all of it because I still need to watch. What is it? You told me to watch that one. The one that looked like Mobius work.
Oh yes, Scavenger's Reign.
Yeah, I need to watch
Gotta
that.
say,
That one is more important than the creator.
Damn, you heard it here first.
Scavenger's Reign is like not. I wouldn't say life changing. I don't want to put up too much, but it's definitely one of the best animated shows of recent years.
Ah, all right, all right. I got. I have 36 hours of flying in the next month, so we'll.
I think you got some time.
Yeah, we'll make something happen.
Are you having to fly back and forth, or is it just taking that long?
No, I have to fly. I have to fly back and forth. So the first one, I got to go over there to kind of do the paperwork, and I got to come back and then come get the cats and then fly back. So that's 3 12-hour flights. So
That's quite a bit.
it's gonna be a fun one. I notoriously hate airlines, so because like it's just a terrible experience. I don't know anybody that's ever been like, you know what, it was great flying. Everyone's like, they just kind of like, it was okay. It was, you know, maybe they don't like hate it. They're not actively vocal about it, but it is oftentimes it's like not an amazing experience.
Yeah, I did it for every 2 weeks for 13 years growing up.
What?
My parents were divorced, so I would visit every 2 weeks to my father's house.
Damn. From where to where?
From Dallas to Tulsa, which is really not that far, but for my parents on the visitation schedule, it's like neither one wanted to drive
Yeah.
5 hours both ways. So,
True that. Yeah, I was in I was in or I grew up in the Dallas area, so that's not. But yeah, I feel you, man.
so I knew some of the pilots by name. And they all recognized me.
Is it the same people like over and over again?
Yeah, pretty frequently.
Oh wow. I I don't fly that much, so like I'm always like seeing like new or like I guess new like flight attendants and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I guess I imagine if you're on it freaking every other week, then it can probably it could probably be a lot.
Yeah. They would give me knickknacks when I was young.
Dude, do you guys remember when they stopped giving you the wings? Because like now you're just too old.
Yeah.
Good times. I remember like when I was a kid, I always got it. Like they just, you know, as soon as you walk on the plane, they're like, here you go, man. You know, I don't know if they do that anymore though. I doubt it, to be honest. Not
Knowing just the general culture of everything now, probably not.
Yeah.
Cost saving measure.
Yeah. It's because they don't care. They don't care about us. This is
I'm doing homework feedback. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject.
Oh no, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was just saying I'm working too. I'm doing critique feedback.
How's that been? As I guess it'd be interesting to kind of talk about like feedback, especially like people listening. Maybe some of you guys are like, I guess, interested in teaching, or at least, you know, maybe could consider it for the future, I guess, because like giving like feedback and stuff is it's a challenge sometimes. How have you found it to be?
Well, it's been good. I've always been feedback oriented, so I've always found it to be a natural fit. The structure at Artwad right now is all written feedback with provided paint over or redline. So the assignment submissions are pretty specific, like torso anatomy, part 1, trace over 10 of the provided images indicating the muscles, and then part 2, invent your own from 3 mannequins at a different perspective. And so my critique would be like, how effective is the muscle invention? How how do the forms look? Are they accurate? Is your muscle placement accurate? But I can also critique things on like um, clothing accuracy, doing folds, character design, costume design is all under stuff that I have to respond to.
Gotcha.
And it's been nice. I enjoy it. I'm not doing too much right now, just 20 hours a month, and I split that between the feedback and making demonstration images. So for upcoming assignments.
Okay.
And yeah, I enjoy it personally.
Cool. Yeah, it's it's a fun, like, it's interesting because like especially like this term, I think my range of students, I guess particularly with like some of the Livestream Plus as well as like some of the other classes I was teaching, it varied. The skill levels really varied, and it was weird because, you know, so I guess some of the feedback that I'd give, I'd have to be super careful about like who I'm saying it to and remembering kind of what class I was in, because there would be times where, you know, I'll kind of give feedback. And I'm like, wait, no, that's for the wrong level. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of like, if you're not careful, because I was teaching what, three classes and like 2 mentorships, right? And all of them are like a little bit different, and it's an interesting process, you know. It's like, you know, I guess because usually my classes are kind of usually in line with each other, where they're like, you know, it's not the same class, but they're relatively in the same kind of skill set. So a lot of the feedback does kind of stay similar. But like I had a super beginner level class, not super, but very beginner level class this term, and I guess some of the stuff that I was saying, I'll be, oh, they're not even going to hear this for like, you know, another like 2 years probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I still relate to that. I'm going through things that seem like, man, this didn't make sense to me before, and now I can't believe I didn't understand it. But now I can see other students in that same part of the learning process.
It's nice because like I think for me, I'm still like I haven't been working that long, right? Like working wise since 16, right? So what is that? 8 years ago, right? Again, and so that's not like that long. And so for me, a lot of the stuff that I guess learned at the time, or I guess was struggling with, I guess remember struggling, you know what I mean? Like struggling with, like, cause I actually, like, it wasn't even that long ago that I figured half the shit out, or not even figured out, but just got better at it. And so like, it was a really, I don't know, it's kind of nice. Like, cause I'll watch people do work, or, you know, I'll get like, I'll kind of have students kind of submit something to me. And then like, I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly how to fix that because I was struggling with that exact same thing not even that long ago. And even some of the videos that I watched during that time are still relevant now. You know, it's like, because like, you know, some of your teachers, like they've been in the industry for like decades, and they even learned it like totally differently. And so like, you know, a lot of the issues that you run into, they might not even ever have had that problem because they're just not at the same, like, I guess, I don't know, headspace as you know what I mean? That's very, but it's nice because some of the students that I'll kind of encounter, they're struggling with the exact same things that I was struggling with like a couple years ago, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Step 1. All right. Anybody have any questions? Anybody, anything on your minds? I guess I do have some conversations. Some things I would like to talk about. I'm just curious. So we'll kind of break into some of that stuff a little bit later. I'll kind of go into it whenever there's a more of an opening. But unless you guys want to talk about that now. Boom, boom. This is this part right here. It's always like for the longest time, I had so many issues with like, not issues, but like, I guess I just wasn't able to, I guess, make something that felt a little more lively. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people, just in general, have that issue where like you're painting something, you're designing something, and it just feels dead, and you don't know why. And like, for the longest time, it was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to fix that, you know, because it's just like, you know, you just keep messing with it until you get it right. But now, like, it's funny because, like, I don't know, just pulling up a reference and being like, just copy that, just make that the thing. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds funny, but that's this, like, I don't want to say it's the secret, but I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, if you're looking for life, just copy life.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this, you know, like, yeah, I copied like a lot of the kind of lettering and stuff like that, but like a lot of the designs and the whole frame itself is different comparatively. And because of that, it automatically starts feeling just a little bit different. And, you know, through this, I'm able to, you know, just make something that is, you know, at the very least has a little bit of intrigue to it, or a little bit of like, you know, I guess just functionality, or I guess life to it, without a lot of effort. And I not that I turn off my brain, but you kind of can, you know, it's like, because it's built in, it's the same type of location, you know, because that's the thing about design. Like, I think one of the major things that I really try to focus on, especially in my classes, is, you know, how do I convey a similar idea to the audience, right? Whoever's looking at my painting, how do I make it so they know what this is, right? And if you make something completely from scratch, right? I'm not saying that you should never do that. What I am saying though is, there is a level of relatability that your audience just needs to have, right? Just like, you know, we've never used a lightsaber, right? But when you see one, you know what it does. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's just a laser sword, right? Like, you know, no one's confused by that idea. So why is that, right? It's because we know what a sword is. We know we know generally speaking what that item is supposed to be, or I guess what it's referencing. And so now, whenever I do something like this, right? Yeah, you might not have seen a kind of entrance, I guess, a subway entrance exactly like this, but you know exactly what it is. You know what I mean? Like, you just kind of feel it. I still have some words and stuff I got to put there, but you know, it's like, you're not that far off, and it's like actually very, I don't know, a lot easier, I would say. And this is kind of how I combat a lot of the issues of like, oh, it just doesn't, there's no relatability, there's no culture here, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times, you know, we get that, but if you're referencing somewhere real, right? And for those of you doing like sci-fi stuff, because in the Livestream Plus right now, there's a bunch of people doing, you know, sci-fi things, or just places that are like inherently harder to relate to, right? If this forces you to find a real life reference, right? It's really, I don't know. It's super important to be like, okay, what is this place actually? What are we supposed to actually be looking at? And if you can kind of nail that down, or at least understand what it relates to in our world, dude, that's most of the game right there, man. That's it. All you got to do is just kind of make it so it reads. Boom. Sick. I'll fix the values in a second. Just kind of go with this for now. Where's that light at? Let's make that kind of glowy. Who's messaging me? Nah. Cool. I need to make this marble. This is like a granite material in here. One thing I did want to talk about, just kind of building off a little bit of like last week, how we were kind of talking about, where's my mouse? There it is. Kind of talking about, I guess, like difference in portfolios and things like that compared to like, you know, some professionals and versus like students, and you know, some levels versus others, right? And I kind of wanted to talk about just some ideas where, like, I think a big issue with a lot of, like, I guess a lot of things where you just learn something, you know what I mean? Like just things that you're just learning in general, right? Is that a lot of people, whenever they're kind of going through this, if there's a level of success that you're having, you tend to repeat that over and over again, which generally speaking, right, it's not a bad idea. And you know, like, you know, theoretically, like thinking about it, you're like, oh yeah, you know, I had a little bit of success doing that, so let's do it again, right? But as like an industry, especially going from like, you know, one position to the next, it's not that it's like detrimental. It's not that it won't work that well, but it can really slow you down. I feel like a big thing that happens a lot from what I've seen is like people that, especially like trying to go from one position to the next, right? One like skill level to the next. They're like, oh yeah, so, you know, I did a bunch of studies to kind of get me a job, so I'll kind of keep doing that again. Not that studies don't work, but you know, it's kind of like this idea of it's not teaching you the thing that you need to learn. You know what I mean? Like, because for example, a lot of the stuff that got us to be a junior or mid-level artist, right, isn't going to be the thing that kind of gets you to be a senior level artist, right? And that's kind of the main idea of what I want to talk about today is, you know, I guess the things that got you to where you are now won't get you to where you want to be, right? Like, you know, the stuff that you learned as a student, right, isn't going to get you to a senior level role. There's something else to learn. And like, especially for people that are like, let's say in the more mid-level range, right, where it's, because to get from junior to mid-level, it's mostly a quality bump, to be completely honest, right? There's a little bit of like, you're just better at art direction in general, like creating your own direction / you know, following others and this and that, right? Generally speaking, you know, there is I guess there's a level of just quality that happens just naturally throughout your career, just because, you know, you paint every day. You paint, you know, 40 hours a week at minimum, right? Most people more, to be honest. And, you know, you're just, after a certain amount of time, you're going to get better. That's just what it is, right? But to get from like, I guess, a more, let's say, junior level to a senior level, or mid-level to a senior level, oftentimes it's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to paint harder. I'm going to render better. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not that it doesn't work, right? But something that really, like, a lot of people kind of, a lot of artists kind of need to like understand is, you really want to start figuring out like, well, what is that thing that like the other seniors are doing, right? The things that's gonna like keep me competitive. You know what I mean? I think a big issue that I see a lot is like, you know, I guess there's a lot of focus just on like just painting. You know what I mean? Just the ability to draw and paint, and like we'll kind of get into projects where you're working with somebody that is, you know, really good at painting, especially like when I was like, you know, like we're outsourcing and stuff like that, you'd work with somebody that's really good at painting, but then like you kind of give them a prompt or like maybe a looser prompt, and they're like, I don't know how to solve this. You know what I mean? And it's a really big issue, because like usually at a studio, what happens is the senior kind of has to like come in and save things a lot of times, you know, because usually the art director or somebody's like too busy, right? There's always like, oh, hey, you know, we couldn't figure out this level. We couldn't figure out this thing. Can you just do something? You know what I mean? And they'll just hit you, like, you know, same with like pitch art, where they're like, hey, we just need you to like do something really cool so we can, you know, kind of, you know, sell it to the client or sell it to whoever, right? And that's a big part of it. It's just like, you're not really given clear instructions. You have to kind of make clear instructions. You know what I mean? It's a very difficult thing to do. I would say consistently, right? It's just something where a lot of times your ability to paint really isn't what's going to save you on that one. And I think a really big thing that, you know, most like students and things should really start understanding is, for you to get to a new level, right, you have to do something different, right? The thing that got you to be a junior or a mid-level artist isn't going to be the thing that kind of saves you at a senior level. You know what I mean? It's really, it sounds kind of weird, but yeah, just kind of changing things up, you know, adjusting your workflow, bringing in new skills. And I you know, even like I kind of have to go through some of that as well, where I'll kind of have to learn something new. Like, you know, 3D was a big thing for, not saying it's not a big thing now, but it was a huge thing. And, you know, every client wanted to see it, right? You know, or not every, but, you know, a lot of clients wanted to see it. And then, you know, you have to kind of adapt and kind of give them what they're looking for. But then they realize, like, oh yeah, it wasn't 3D that we're needing. It was good design skills, you know. but yeah. Let's see. Boom. Let's grab this. This is the for me, this is probably one of the more fun aspects to kind of do in a project, right? Like, even though it's like kind of, I don't want to say mind numbing, but it is like slower. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're just kind of going, you know. And something I really like to do is just kind of, I don't say space out, but I'll just kind of just go, because the things are already spelled out for you. I'm just copying, basically, not 100%, but basically exactly what I see. And because of that, right, you're just slowly adding in a lot more detail that you just didn't have before, you know. How's it going, guys? How's life? How's the business? Actually, I want all this darker. Not darker, just the same tone. There you go. I'll grab this down here. Sick. This should be like some sort of tile. I don't know. Should I make it yellow? Orange? Oh, like right now it's brick inside the thing, so maybe I could make it something like that. I don't know if I like that though. I'll make it different. Yo, Brian's here. What's up, dude?
What's up, man?
How's it going, man? How's the professional life? You still killing it?
It's going. Got a new job offer.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, so it's going good.
Nice. New job offers be the good thing, you know.
Yes. So everything's alright right now.
Nice.
And you're gonna leave Japan soon, aren't you?
Yes, I'm leaving next week.
Dude, that's crazy. Are you excited?
I am excited. It's gonna be a nice change of pace. I'm excited to like, you know, just try something different, you know. I think a big part of me was kind of not feeling like stagnant, but like just kind of, I don't say bored, but it is very like just kind of doing the same things over and over again, you know. And I think for me now that I work full remote, and I refuse to go back in, for anybody curious. I will actively like just not take jobs because they want me to come in. And so now, a big issue I had was because I'm in LA, right? They're like, well, you're here, so what's the issue? I'm like, it's principle, man. I just don't want to go. But hopefully being in LA maybe helps that. Maybe like, yeah, or being in Japan helps that, because like now, you know, I'm actually going to be gone, so they can't say much about it. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they say. How's how's the I guess transition for, because you've been working for a couple years now, 2 years, right?
Yeah.
How's that kind of transition been for you? Like, I guess, was it kind of what you were expecting? Was it like, I guess, was it kind of what you thought it would be, or was it like way different?
Um, to be honest, it was way different.
How so?
So I quit my job like 2 years ago, and it hasn't felt like I've been working for the past 2 years.
Nice. You just enjoy
So
it?
it's just, I enjoy it, but it doesn't feel like work because I've been always used to doing like labor work.
Ah.
So it really doesn't feel like work at all. So I don't know if that's a good thing or I'm gonna get bored of it pretty soon. I don't know.
That's a good thing. I mean, at the very least, like, it doesn't feel like you're, I guess, if it doesn't feel like you're working, then at the very least, it's not super stressful, right?
Yeah, just
Well, everyone
sometimes
hopes
like I get stressed out.
Yeah. Gotcha. That's cool. Was it, I guess, like the stuff you were learning in school and stuff like that compared to like what you're, I guess, told to do in studio? Did that line up for you? Because I think for me, like my biggest, I don't know, biggest change was just the expectations of like what I was actually doing. I think like the stuff in school that I learned was like so different from like the stuff that we actually do in studio.
Yeah, it's way different. But everything you said while I was taking your classes is pretty much everything we do.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, that's what Kenny said. And then everything just starts clicking all together. Like every little thing that I learned from James, everybody,
Yeah.
it just like clicks all at the end, I think.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a big thing too. Cause I for those that don't know, I for my classes, I really emphasize like actual things that we do in production, good and bad, right? Where it's like this is actually something that we have to do or don't have to do, right? And because like it's just so I don't know, it's a lot. I don't say easier, but it is like different to a degree, right? Where I don't know. It's like it's difficult to explain, but like a lot of the stuff that you'll do in class, I don't say it's harder, but there is a level of difficulty that is kind of present in like, let's say, like student work. But then when we get to a production, it's not about growing your skills anymore, which is good and bad for for everyone listening. Like that's a good and bad thing, right? The good thing is, like whatever gets us to kind of solve the problem, that's what we're looking for, right? That's all that matters. We'll do paint overs. People will take over our paintings. We'll take over their paintings. And we'll use every trick under the sun to make sure that whatever we're doing, is moving us to I guess a point in that production or in that pipeline. But in school, right, we got to do it the quote unquote correct way, because that's the best way to learn it. That's that's everything that you need to know. But like for example, I'll give someone feedback in class, and the expectation is you don't take my painting and then just copy it, or you don't just take my painting and paint over it, right? You have to like copy it, or take the understanding of it and then kind of go from there. But at work, I mean, half the time my production designer, art director, whoever, they'll just take my painting, do the paint over, and then send that, or whatever. Like it's not, or even like they'll give me the layers that they use to like make the thing happen, and it's very I don't know. It's very different than what I thought it was gonna be whenever I started. I don't know. Maybe I'm just dumb. Who knows? Maybe I'm just not a smart individual. Oh, in the comments, Kenpachi says, "Are you a pho or a bumbo huegan kind of guy?" I'm a pho guy. I don't really like soups that much, to be completely honest. Not that I don't like them, I just don't eat them as much. But pho though, pho is like, I actually had pho 2 days ago. I think it was 2 days. Was it Sunday? I think it was Sunday. And yeah, so pho's the best. And you know, not saying you're wrong if you don't like it as much as Boomball, but you know, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not right. You know what I'm saying? So, but Boomball's okay. It's not pho though. You know what I'm saying? Which one's your favorite? Kenpachi Z. Boomball, how dare you? How dare you? I feel like you're messing with me. Let's see. It's kind of moving, right? I think, like, you know, we're slowly kind of getting into pieces. I'm kind of working on, you know, just things here and there just to kind of make it feel, you know, I guess we're adding in the materials, right? Like a big part of this is like, we're just trying to make sure that every piece that we put into this, you know, kind of adds that little bit of life. Usually it's just the addition of, like, you know, 4 or 5 different materials, or like different, like, you know, just items, things that kind of make this feel real. And so that's all I'm doing, you know. I'm having to correct things as we kind of go, but you know, a lot of it is like just zooming in, right? I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned as a student, right? Kind of going into professional work is zoom in. Like, it sounds like the dumbest thing, but it really is the difference. Like, I work on a 32-inch monitor, which is on the bigger side for sure. But it's like, when I work, I had the 13, when I first started working, my first like couple months, I was on a 13-inch Cintiq. I had the Cintiq Companion at the time. It was that standalone, like, kind of computer thing, right? And it was fine. It was cool for like student work and stuff. And not that, you know, like, in the hands of a professional, they'll kill it. They'll be just fine, right? But there was a quality jump when I went from my 13-inch Cintiq to the 21-inch Cintiq. Is a bit of an older model, but that's just what we had at the studio. And like, just the ability to kind of see things better, because whenever I was working, everything was at thumbnail size. You know what I mean? Everything was so small. And whenever I was working, I'd get the, you know, like the 400% zoom, and they're like, what the hell is that? You know, what's that thing? What's this? You know, and it'd be just brushstrokes. But it, you know, because I had to actually do these things for clients, right? Like people that, you know, were like trying to build this thing, right? I had to actually like figure it out. And with a smaller screen, it made it like so much harder, just because like you're kind of automatically in thumbnail mode, right? Which is good for some things, but not good for others, right? Especially kind of working, I would say, like cleaner, right? So yeah, zoom in like a lot. I think, I don't know, like, because I teach a couple classes, and like oftentimes it's usually like, if you know, I'll have students kind of come back to me and say, oh yeah, I zoomed in and like everything changed, right? I'm like, yeah, man, that's what we do, you know, and that's life. That's what it is at the end of the day, you know? So, but yeah, zooming in, it'd be the, if you're looking for the secret sauce, if you're like trying to figure out what the secret to concept art is, it's zooming in, because it does the work. Pow. All right. Much says it's spicy, man. I eat mine, so I'm kind of a I don't want to say a freak, but something happened to me this past like 6 months. I went from like an average level of spicy where, you know, it's like a normal person, right? I can eat hot sauce. I can eat, but basically any like commercial hot sauce that restaurants would feasibly have. Like there's, you know, there's the challenge restaurants, but those places are freaks of nature. That's different. But you know, like I wasn't like a spicy person, but now I don't know what happened, but like I just like I started like craving jalapenos one day. Right? And jalapenos aren't that spicy, but you know, then I started like just eating them straight up, like raw. And even like I don't even like kind of pickled jalapenos that much, just because it kind of dims down the spiciness. And ever since then, I've just been like going overboard. I mean, I don't know, I might get an ulcer or something, but yeah, it's been like the reason I say this, the reason I say it's spicy, the reason I say that because you said it was spicy was because when I eat my pho now, I actually I eat all the jalapenos with it, so it actually kind of compensates for that lack of spice. Sriracha's whatever, but the jalapenos they kind of fill it out for me, so to speak. Shit, my mouth's watering now just thinking about spices. Fuck, that's crazy. Emma says you can go for some late night pho right now. Pho is the best. Pho in the morning. Oh my god, like it just like gives you life. Like it's like a nice, I don't know, just something about it. I remember when I was a kid, we wake up in the morning, like we'd go to Vietnam for like, you know, family and stuff like that, and we'd wake up in the morning, and my aunts or cousins or whoever would like go and like grab us pho in the morning. And as a kid, I always thought it was weird. I was like, you know, I've never eaten it that way, but then like now it's like, dude, it's so good. It's just different. Like especially like you have like breakfast in the morning type of thing. Oh my god, or not breakfast at night type of thing. It's like the same feeling. But yeah, it's good. Vishal says, do you use sculpting workflow in Blender to get organic shapes for your designs? I don't. I'm not that good at Blender, so like I don't do a lot of the things that I probably should be doing, to be completely honest, because I just never got to it. I am trying to, though. I am going to start kind of pushing that bar a little bit higher this coming year, actually. Actually, I've been saying that for years, but but I have been addressing some of those issues. So it's not like I haven't been doing anything about it. But yeah, I am going to be kind of trying to push that bar just a little bit higher, just so because you know, as I'm I guess as I'm like figuring things out and kind of working, I guess when things being a little bit I don't know, I don't say slower, but I am trying to take things a little bit slower this coming year. So I'm going to be working on myself, right? I think that's a big thing that I've been another thing I want to talk about. A big thing that I've been struggling with, but like having to figure out, right, is saying no to things so you can like do your thing, right? Like, because whenever I was a student, right, I mean, you know, you're always doing your thing because no one's hiring you, right? Like, I mean, don't say it like that, but I mean that's what it is. You're just not being employed, so you're always doing your thing. But eventually, right, when you start getting calls, when you start getting these things, and it's very tempting to like take all of it. You know what I mean? Like, because as soon as someone gives you an opportunity, we're so used to saying yes, right? Because, like, you know, you're so used to saying yes because you've been trained to say yes because people have been saying no to you for however long. You know what I mean? Like, it's an opportunity, and so, but the issue with that is now you kind of don't have time to do anything, and a lot of like professionals and things that I know, you start stagnating, right? Because it's not that you're stagnating because you're not doing any work. You're stagnating because you're not doing anything new. You know what I mean? If you're doing the same thing over and over again, right, your portfolio's gonna look exactly the same, and then all the you know, all the work that comes out is gonna look exactly the same. So there's no like, I don't know, there's no change that's happening, and especially in an industry that's constantly changing, right? There's new technologies, like groundbreaking technologies every like 10 years, every 5 years. And so like it's really hard to I guess kind of keep up with that while also, you know, maintaining a job while also trying to have a life of any sort. You know what I mean? Like it's difficult. So I think a big thing that I'm trying to kind of implement this year a little more is saying no and doing, I guess I don't want to say doing less, right? But doing things for myself a little more, just to kind of, you know, I guess improve my skill sets, right? Because you know, after a while, you do find yourself just not improving as much as you hoped, right? You know, because I'm painting every single day or most days, like there is a level of like you are improving, absolutely, right? Just the fact of doing a painting, you're getting better at it, but you get to the level to where a lot of the things that you need to get better at isn't painting, right? Isn't drawing, isn't not that I don't need to get better at it. I absolutely do, but it's the other stuff that you want to kind of start addressing to at least some sort of degree, you know. And that's a big thing that I'm trying to address this year. You know, just doing more for myself. You know, you get tired of working for other people after a while. Like it really does start kind of grinding on you, because you know that's what you know we as artists, right? Generally speaking, we like doing stuff for ourselves. And that's a big thing too. Like when you start working, that a big realization that I had starting, right? It was like, oh yeah, I really like, you know, creating story moments or like telling stories and this and that, right? And then like, or even like some people even like creating their own, but they want to be concept artists. And like, you don't really do that because it's somebody else's story. It's somebody else's thing. And that's what you're doing, right? It's different. It's, you know, I think for me, not what I expected whenever I guess kind of started. It's like, you know, I have my own unique ideas and this and that. And oftentimes they actually, especially in a junior kind of setting, right? Or even a mid-level setting, they don't really want your ideas. They need your hand, right? They need your ability to draw and paint because, you know, they have the idea. So they'll tell you, hey, you know, this is what I want. This is kind of what I'm thinking, whether it's your art director or whoever, right? And then, you know, you'll implement something like, nah, that's not what I was thinking. You know what I mean? And then they'll kind of, you know, you'll kind of just kind of create what they need you to do. And I'm not saying that's always the case, right? Because there are projects and things where, you know, you're hired for your expertise, but especially in the more junior roles, you're there to render, right? You're there because somebody doesn't have the time to do this, right? It's more efficient for you to do this turnaround, render this thing than it is for this other more senior level artist or whoever. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. You know, it's like after a while, you kind of just want to start doing your own thing, you know? Oh, Kim Podge says, by the way, how come you will stop teaching at Brainstorm? So yeah, I'm just taking a break. Just kind of like going back into what I was saying a second ago. I'd been teaching there for a couple of years now, since 2020. I think is when I started. So, you know, 4 years, for 3.5, really. And I mean, you know, I definitely enjoyed it, but I do want to kind of focus a little more on this live stream / whatever this YouTube channel is going to be. You know, whether I'm like making YouTube videos or not, who knows? But it is going to be, I guess, trying to push into kind of just doing more of my own stuff, you know. But a lot of it is like, well, I'm moving in this coming month, right? So it's not that you know, there's a bit of like I stopped because I wanted to kind of take a break and do my own thing, but also I couldn't physically do it because I am moving, right? So, you know, there's two reasons, I guess. one thing I do like about this process, just segueing real quick, there is like part of designing, right, is like we want to design every little thing and make it like this special, unique thing that no one's ever seen, right? There's something about a normal ass design in a different space that like it just hits harder. You know what I mean? Like because we have this like, you know, sci-fi building and like these kind of hologram type things or whatever, right? And then like you see handrails. You know what I mean? Like it's not like that crazy of an idea. But the whole point is not everything needs to be like some crazy like brand new invention that no one's ever seen before. You know what I mean? Like all you got to do, because if most of it is kind of like, you know, I guess designed out or interesting or whatever, you know, you're probably most of the way there. And now we're looking for things for people to kind of understand. You know what I mean? So a lot of this is like we're just trying to create, I guess, for one, bring back scale and a lot of the kind of real life props and stuff like that to kind of give context to the space, you know, but also like try to give something just relatability. You know what I'm saying? Cool. Let's see. Sick. Let's go, dude. How's it going, Discord? How's life? How's the things?
I'm in week 2 at EA, and I have my first assignments.
How's that been?
Good so far. I've been given a fair amount of autonomy. Like they're looking to me for design ideas, and it is kind of a trial by fire though. So I'm jumping right into relatively unfamiliar subject matter.
Yeah.
Having to wrap my head around those sorts of things. So I'm really just kind of shooting in the dark and just making sure that I keep as much communication as possible going with my art director, so that he can look for anything wrong before it gets any higher. Higher up. But I'm enjoying it. One thing I've found fairly interesting is there seems to be a lot of longevity for the employees at EA Sports. So the people who are there have all been there at least 5 years. So there's a lot of established knowledge and friendly environment. People know each other.
Nice.
I'm enjoying that, especially coming from my last studio, which was just, you know. So, it's been nice. I think there's a lot to look forward to.
Nice. That's good. I think it is interesting. There's I've interviewed with some studios that are out of state, you know, out of California specifically. And what I've kind of noticed is like a lot of the positions they kind of like stay I guess stay there for a long time. There's a lot of like they kind of stay in those positions for a very long time. Because I think like I interviewed for a place in Maryland, and this was like 2018 or something like that, a long time ago. And they're like, oh yeah, everyone's been here for like 5 years plus. I was like, god damn. And then you come to LA and I was like, oh yeah, I started like 6 months ago, or I started like a year ago, you know. And like I guess the I don't know, the retaining rate is pretty high in a lot of the kind of, I guess, away from LA type places, which is really interesting. And it's cool. It's not good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. And yeah, it's like if you're kind of down for that, if you're looking for that, you know, a lot of especially big companies outside of LA will offer that, or not offer that. You know, they just keep you, but they'll kind of it'll kind of like the culture around the studio will kind of be like that, which is really interesting. So, but yeah, it's really cool.
Hey Alex, are you working there like in person or is it like a remote position?
I'm remote. The studio's based in Florida, and uh, they let me stay in Kansas City.
Nice. Remote's the best.
That's cool.
Remote.
They have some Vancouver and Spain locations, but I live in neither of those places, so
But you could.
I could. But well, Spain would be a lot more difficult to get to.
Yeah, but think of the food in Spain.
I know. I do have family there. I almost had a ticket to like
Oh, that's right.
my family's part of the Iberian. What was it? Like they were forced out 200 years ago or something, and Spain and Portugal were doing reparations and providing people who could prove their bloodline citizenship. But we asked and asked my family who lived there, and they couldn't find proof of our great-great-grandfather's passing there, so we missed the deadline.
Oh, for that that citizenship thing, right?
Yeah, it expired like last year or a year and a half ago.
Dang. It's interesting. Like, we're looking through ancestry.com for Gloria, and like, it tracked to like 1500s, like, you know, because she has she's Mexican, but you know, Mexicans come from Spain and other you know countries like that, and it tracked like all the way back to even like Italy for, I think, was it Italian? I think it was Italian for her family's, specifically her family's last name, and it was like crazy, like, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, that works as proof, right?
Man, I wish I knew the technicalities, but we didn't look into it hard enough, which I regret not doing.
Dang, now you'll never know. You won't know what that that paella life would be.
Yeah. I'll just ask my cousin Carlos what it's like.
There you go. Exactly. He's like, that's all right. A lot of naps, a lot of just random breaks in the day, which I dig, by the way. Like daytime naps. Oh my god. Like, yeah, work, and this is like a big part of, like, for me working from home. Like, if I'm at studio, right, you just kind of like slog through it. You'll just get another coffee, do your thing or whatever, right? But like at home, dude, I'll just like take my lunch break and go get a nap, right? I'll just take a 30-minute nap, 20-minute nap, like the recommended amount of time nap. And dude, I come back like, you know, like an assassin. Like, you just go in, like, you're just coming back and you just kill it. Like, because before you're just dead. Like, I'm just, if I kind of like didn't get enough sleep the night before or whatever, right? Just whatever happened. My day was shot, where I'm like, I mean, I can't really think, right? You know, I'm trying to think, but I'm not, you know, you're just not doing it. It's just not working, right? But freaking like daytime naps, bro, so good. It's probably saved my career at least 2 or 3 times at this point.
It got me in trouble in college, where I started relying on midday naps way too much. And I just missed classes by mistake.
I lived, when I was in college, for this very short amount of time that I was in college, I lived about an hour away from the school, hour in traffic, but, you know, it was like 45 minutes without. And I'd wake up, if I was like, you know, if I was already late, I was like, screw it, I'm just not going. And that was probably a terrible mentality to have, but it is what it is. It's funny. I sometimes I think about it because I was a terrible student. For those that I guess knew me before the me now, right? This you're talking to a very different Kenny, right? Like just so everybody is clear about this. Like I was not a good student. Like I just didn't care. You know what I mean? Like I just wasn't into it. I just kind of wanted to do my thing, and that's all I really did. And I think like it's funny now because I guess if I went into anything with a determination that I have that I went into with art, right? I think life would be very different to be honest.
Yeah.
I was like,
I wonder that sometimes too.
because I'm just like, dude, like I was in, I was doing like, because I jumped around. I was doing pre-med first. I was like, I don't really like this because I don't really like biology that much. And then I was like, I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. Fuck that, you know? And then I went into, I think it was, what was it, mechanical engineering or electrical engineering. And I just like kind of like because these are the days where like studying for like an hour was like crazy. You're like, dude, or why are you studying so much? You know, like that's kind of like what it was. And then nowadays I'm doing 12-hour work days, or even as a student I was like studying for like, or I was like doing stuff for however many hours. Like it was like at least 10 plus easy, right? And if I went into anything with that kind of determination, I don't know, man. I feel like I'd be able to do anything.
I've thought about that too, but then I also think that maybe the reason we've done it is because this has been that right kind of match. And
Yeah.
we wouldn't necessarily put in that effort.
Yeah, totally. That's actually a really good thing. I was talking to. Well, I mean, this is, I guess I don't want to say common advice, but advice that I give a lot. Where like, because for those in the environment, I guess I don't say industry, but like environment side of things, right? It's always I get this so much, and it's mildly irritating. It's not. For those that have asked me, it's not irritating that you ask, but it's the idea behind it, where it's like, oh yeah, so I'm trying to do concept art or trying to do environment art because it's easier than character. I'm like, how dare you? You know what I mean? Like, I don't say it like that, but it's just like it's like, oh yeah, because people say that character design is super competitive, and yeah, okay, it's all competitive. You know what I mean? A big thing that especially as an environment design teacher, I get this so often. Where students will either come to me and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to do environment design," and I'm like, "Oh, you don't. Your whole portfolio is full of characters," and like, "Oh yeah, because they had told me, somebody had told me that environment design was easier," and I mean, I don't know. Like I don't agree, first and foremost, because if you think that, then you're probably not very good at environments, and I include professionals in that, like. If you're a professional telling a student that they should do environment design because it's easier, get the fuck out of here. That's not good advice at all. That's terrible advice. That is something that you're, I don't want to say like dooming somebody. That's a little dramatic, but it's not good advice at all. And anybody that hears that, right? And you can clip me, send this to whoever you want, right? I'll fight them. I don't give a fuck. But it's just like, because the idea is you're not inclined to do environments. So why would you be any good at it? You know what I mean? Like if you're already somebody that, I guess like this is purely student to student, right? If you're a professional, like, you do whatever you want. But like if you're a student struggling to find work in character design, that means you've been doing it for a second. Right? Because usually it's a move out of desperation where it's like I can't find work as a character designer, so I need to kind of jump ship and do something else. Right? That's usually the idea. The biggest issue with that is, well, you're already short on time, and now you have to do an equivalent amount of work that you had already been doing for character design. Right? Because you've been doing figures, costumes, character design work, this and that, the whole gamut. Environment designers have a similar amount of work, right? You have to learn perspective, you have to learn, environment design, you have to learn, fucking plein air painting, whatever. You have to do the whole thing. It's the same, like I would say it's a similar amount of work. And so now the limited amount of time you have, you're shifting gears into something else. And that just doesn't help, it just makes things worse. It's like that doesn't do anything, because now you have less time to learn something that you're less inclined to even want to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's the biggest thing is we're people at the end of the day. We have likes and we have dislikes. And if you don't like doing, like if you didn't pick environment design to begin with, right? You probably don't like doing it. So like, why the hell would you be any good at it compared to somebody that actually enjoys this shit? You know what I mean? Like I actually enjoy environment design, so I can do this, 12, 16-hour days if I have to, right? But if you don't like it, you will never compete with somebody that does. And it's just like, it just makes it so much harder. So when I hear that from like students like, oh yeah, this person told me that I should just do environments because it's easier. I'm like, I mean, that's not good advice at all. That's terrible advice. And if you hear it, it's, you should probably, I don't want to say stop talking to whoever told you that, but I mean, stop listening to them at the very least, because I mean, the rest of their advice is probably trash too. Just being real, right? It's just like, because you'll get like these, desperate students looking for some sort of answer, right? Some sort of, I don't know, thing to kind of solve their problem, which is usually a monetary problem of some sort, right? They just can't be students forever. And then you get this advice that like basically just, just finishing moves them, right? Where it's like they only had 6 months left, and then the last 6 months they wasted on fucking environment design classes. You know what I mean? This is like, it's so bad. And it's just it's terrible advice. And if you say it, you're a terrible person. I don't want to say it like that, but I mean, you know what I mean? It's just not good advice. And you're actively hurting someone's, future by saying it. Yeah. Yeah, what Kenpachi was saying, like every discipline is fucking hard, like it's just what it is. They're all hard. So the best thing that you can do is focus on the one that you're actually inclined to do, right? And but that takes some soul searching, right? If you are actually better at environment design, just know that, right? It doesn't mean you actually have to do it. And that's another big thing too, right? There are some people that are more technically minded or more, perspectively inclined, right? Which is perfect, right? I'm very much like that, right? But if you don't want to do environment design for whatever reason, you just like character design, or you like, something else, animation or animator, or storyboard artist or whatever, do that. Whatever the hell it is you want to do that, because you're going to be more inclined to want to learn it. And I truly don't believe there's you're just not meant for something. You know what I mean? I think there's a way for everybody to kind of get in doing it their way. You know what I mean? Because that's what actually makes you special. A big thing about art is that we're always looking for someone different. And if you're somebody that is always doing what's expected, right? I don't say you're not really valuable, but everybody does that, right? It's really easy to find somebody that can do exactly what, I guess what everyone else does, right? Because everyone else does it. If you took only environment design classes, you're probably a stock standard environment designer, right? If you only took character design classes, you're probably a stock standard character designer. And it's in a world or an industry where we are valued on our uniqueness, right? Somebody like, obviously like I was saying before, with a junior, you're not really that unique because, you're a junior artist. But when you start getting into the more senior levels, your ability to solve something differently than another senior is actually valuable. And that's how you start getting into the higher tiers of what a senior artist is, right? Because somebody that can solve a problem in a unique way that no one else can solve, right, instantly becomes way more valuable because they can't solve it that way. We don't think that way. We don't experience life the same way as this person or whatever, right? So they're unique, and then they can charge top dollar for whatever skills they kind of have. You know what I mean? And that's what we're looking for. When you hire somebody, especially at a senior level, it's what can they offer to the studio, right? Like a junior, usually it's like what can the it's not really about like your ability to be different. It's usually like, can you draw and paint? I need this very specific skill, right? Because we have a project, we have a thing that we need to do, whatever, right? And it's usually pretty, I don't want to say easy, but it's just like turnarounds or like, very, I would say more labor intensive work, right? Because that's what junior work is. But as a senior level artist, right, now they're looking to you to solve a problem, right? Whether it's like a design problem or, whatever, in your way, because they want your voice, right? And that's what they're looking for. You know what I'm saying? So.
I got what you're saying, Kenny.
Yo, what's up, Mason?
What's up, guys? What's up, Kenny?
Dude, we got Mason in the house, man. What's up, bro?
Nothing much, man.
I feel like I should have left earlier because you never talked to me until I was leaving, dude. What happened?
Oh no, I don't. I guess poor timing. I mean, dude, who told you to go move to Japan? Man?
True that.
Oh man, it's all good. Nothing, man. I just came back from GDC.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's
Last
that just finished this past weekend, right?
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Nice. How do you feel about GDC? I guess like because you were there last year with Brainstorm, and I was there as well. I guess like you personally as an artist, like what is that? I guess what does that mean to you? Like, what do you like some of these conventions, right? Like, do you feel like it's worth it? Do you feel like it's something that's necessary? Or you just kind of like you were asked to go, so you went.
Sure. Well, I was asked to go, and
Yeah.
like it was like why not? Just kind of scope things out. But I think GDC, as an artist, it does have value. I think I came back like pretty like inspired and motivated, even with like the state of the industry and everything, and there was a lot of that for sure. But I think for GDC, if you're someone, especially like an indie developer or like in games in general, like that's the place you should be, and that's like where it's really valuable. I met like some friends who are also artists, like senior level, like art directors, and they are starting to get into like the IP development and like the game development side and stuff, and they got a lot of like value out of it because they got to be able to network with a lot of people who fund games and publishers and that sort. I saw Anthony Jones, and he was like there too, like trying to pitch his own game and stuff. So I think if you're like an artist or like it's still like worthwhile, but if you're like a game developer, I think that's even better.
I think that's for me,
Tracks with the name.
GDC was actually super interesting because like I hadn't been before up until recently, up until last year, right? And I guess like I'd heard it was a game developer convention, right? But I think I always kind of, I don't know, put it through the lens of like concept art, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like it was very like, it's game developers, so it was like studios looking for artists, or I guess like artist based things, very similar to like Lightbox. For example, like if you've been to Lightbox, Lightbox is a very artist first type of place. You know what I mean? So a lot of the stuff that they kind of show there and that they do there is very artist focused, right? But at GDC, it's, you know, there's actually not that many artists there, and all the studios, like from all the talks that we had, they weren't like, they didn't know any artists, right? And they were like, oh shit, you're somebody that can actually do this stuff, right? You're somebody that actually knows how to draw, paint, design, work with clients, this and that. Because a lot of them are just like, you know, pitching their new game, and is usually very very early in the process. And there's so much, like, I don't know, there's so much amazement, because at Lightbox there's like thousands of artists there at every level. You know what I mean? So like every single time you talk to somebody, they had just talked to somebody that was probably miles better than you. But like at GDC, when we would talk to people, like half of them like didn't even know, like had never talked to an artist before. And it was actually amazing, 'cause like seeing, I guess, like what types of things that people actually like need, you know, in a studio setting. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really odd. Like, for anybody that hasn't been, I do recommend going. And it is expensive, and I understand that. But there is a I don't know. There's something about it. There's something I don't know. Once you get to a certain level, like, and you start kind of offering services, right? You're able to, you know, I guess, talk to some of these like companies and stuff. You kind of start getting yourself on the radar, like whether it like actually, turns into a monetary gain. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, we put our card out there. We put our name out there, and you know, I think it helped, right? I don't know how much it paid off. I can't, you know, quantify that in a monetary sense. But I do feel like it was worth it, right? Just to kind of get your name out there and show people that you exist. Especially for like maybe artists that are not on the newer side so much. If you're on the newer side, right? It is hard to justify kind of going to something like this, just because just the price tag is so damn high, right? If you're not in the Bay Area, right? If you're in the Bay Area, you should absolutely go. Like, you should absolutely be there, right? Any convention that's in your local area, go to that, right? Because there's professionals everywhere, right? Especially in places that maybe aren't LA, right? Because in LA, right, you know, you're a dime a dozen, right? There's thousands of you know, just kind of walking around like artists, right? But like, even like I did a convention in Mexico, in Monterrey this past month, however long ago it was, right? And like, I was one of the only actually professional, or I guess like industry professionals, one of the few. Like, there was like maybe a couple out of like 40, right? And like, people that were just there, like, would be like, oh, hey, I work for this company, you know, or hey, you know, I do this thing, or hey, we're looking for this thing, or even like schools, because a lot of like, you know, local schools that have art programs that are looking for, you know, just people to kind of talk or whatever, right? Like, they're around too, you know, and it's these opportunities that you're actually kind of looking for. That's what you want to do. And I'm not saying go to this to do that, right? But it is a good opportunity no matter where you're at, right? You can be in like a more rural part of, you know, America or wherever. You can be in a different country, or you could be also in LA or San Francisco, right? But really like putting yourself out there and showing people like you have a skill, you know? I had a student, or still have, I mean, I guess he's always a student, but he went to a theme park convention, and there was like no artists there. And what do, you know, theme park people need? They need fucking artists to do stuff. You know what I mean? And he was telling me how amazing it was. I was like, dude, this shit, maybe we should just go to that, right? But you know, that's the thing. It's, you just have to find it, you know, because if you're betting on one or two conventions here and there throughout the year, you know, I don't want to say, like, you want to try harder than that, right? You want to put yourself out there just a little bit better, because everybody is doing that, and you're putting yourself in the the hardest arena to play in. You know what I mean? Like you're in the like if you're only showing your stuff at Lightbox, you are showing yourself your stuff in the hardest place to show stuff at, right? Because everybody there is fucking good, you know? There's, you know, from everybody tabling is, you know, generally speaking, an industry professional to some degree, right? Some are like legends in the industry. And then there's people like, you know, there's mid-level artists, senior level artists, all having their portfolios. And, you know, I guess showing their work. And it really is like one of the hardest places to kind of show stuff. And that's why, like, I think for me, I stopped, I guess, caring about kind of showing my work at a lot of these conventions, right? For one, I mean, you know, I have moved in my career to some degree, right? So there's a lot less of a pressing need to like kind of show my work everywhere. But even when I was a student, like you know, you get the portfolio reviews. I don't want to say they're a waste of time, but oftentimes they're not trying to hire. So the best thing that happens is like they just tell you to fix these things and that's about it. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's not helpful. Like it is helpful to kind of, you know, get someone to look at your work, but you're not like the expectation is actually different, because when students go and they get this interview, like, oh, they get this review, or the studio is going to like check out my portfolio. The expectation is, oh, hey, they're going to potentially hire me. You know, I want to show my best work, right? And the studio's eyes is, oh, we're kind of just doing a service for this event, right? But any hiring they do, it won't be through there, or at the very least, very rarely will actually, like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know anybody that was actually hired through like CTN or Lightbox or anything like that. A lot of people that I know, they're just like, oh yeah, they just checked out our work and they just call it a day. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, right?
I kind of did, Kenny.
Did you really? Shit, dude.
Yeah.
Wait, so how'd you do that? What was the thing?
Dude, they just hit me up randomly and I went to the interview. And I kept in contact with Nickelodeon for a while. And they would just hit me up if I'm available to work. And then, you know, this whole issue with animation not hiring a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, randomly I just hit up the recruiter and she was like, yeah, we have space. Like, so it kind of worked.
Was it
Getting in contact with the recruiter.
Yeah, but that was the contact with the recruiter versus like being hired at the place, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said kinda.
Yeah, right. And that's kind of where that's the gray area, right? Yeah, because no, I agree. Getting to know people, talking with people, right, is the key, right? Because I do agree with that. Where I think for me, a lot of the stuff that kind of happens to me throughout my career, right, like, you know, finding work, this and that, it happens through just talking with somebody, like. No shit. So it's funny. I was actually, I'm moving out of my apartment and I texted my neighbor, my downstairs neighbor, to say, hi, you know, hey, I'm leaving, this and that. And then he randomly hits me up. He's like, you're in VizDev? I was like, yeah, I hadn't told you. I've been living here for like 3 or 4 years at this point. Like, I think 2020 is when I moved in. And he's like, dude, I'm making a show for Disney TV and I work with this one these people, and like he's like an executive producer, and like I had no idea. He's just a neighbor that I had downstairs that you know what I mean, and we just kind of like talked. I'm not saying that everyone's gonna luck in like that, but you know it is a lot of that where I just went to somebody's engagement party in like 2017 or some shit like that, and then I got hired at Sony in 2019, you know, or 2020. And then, you know, the same thing with a lot of other stuff, like some of the people that I've interacted with these past couple years, right? Like just randomly, and it just hit me up like, oh yeah, you know, we thought about you for this thing. And you just never know when that's gonna happen, and it's a lot of like putting yourself out there, and you know, because a lot of these like reviews that like I guess we kind of do, I guess there's this expectation of like, oh, we're gonna get hired, but in reality, it's a lot of like you're just networking, you're just putting yourself out there, and you're getting yourself known to where people can look at you and be like, oh, okay, cool, you're a decent artist, you're pretty good, you know, we'll keep you in mind, you know, and then it kind of ends there. But I think I guess for me, a lot of the, I don't know, I would say like, maybe it's just me, I don't know, who knows. A lot of the expectation was like, oh, I'm trying to get hired at this event, hopefully, because, you know, the clock's ticking essentially. But you're real in reality, you're playing the long game more than anything. You know, you're trying to I guess just put your name out there, and hopefully someone hits you up. Like I had a client hit me up this past month. I can't say who or what, but they hit me up, and I hadn't worked with them since like 2020 or 2019 or something like that. You know what I mean? It's a lot of like, you just don't know when things kind of, you know, happen. You know what I mean?
Modern day James talking to me saying like, I'm going to board game conventions. Everyone's going, they're making board games, but they don't actually know any artists.
Yes.
And
we're actually a very difficult people to find for whatever reason. Like when I go out and like talk with like people, they're like, oh, I don't know any artists. I'm like, oh, that's weird, because I know like 50 that need work right now. You know what I mean? And you're hiring. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy because it's such a common thing in our industry where, you know, like we're all like, everybody's looking for work, right? And then there's like entire industries that don't know any artists, which is fucking madness to me, right? It's like, how's that possible? Same thing with like a lot of theme park stuff where they're like, we just hired an engineer to kind of do this design, and you know, it looks like trash. It functionally works very well. It's usually very good. But just doesn't look appealing. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where a lot of the big problems kind of lie. And, you know, just being a little more creative about it. You know what I mean? I literally credit like a lot of the earlier starts in my career to going to like a Magic the Gathering Grand Prix. It wasn't even like an artist convention. There happened to be an artist alley. But it wasn't like people were there for art. They were there to play Magic, you know? But I was one, I just said hi, and that was the end of that. Didn't really expect much out of it. And then, you know, years later, so on and so forth happened. And then, you know, here we are now. And it's like, it's really hard to know what is going to do it. So you kind of have to just go through your entire career, just meeting people, doing things, you know, it's a lot of like, just hoping that something happens, but you can't go at it with the mentality of like, oh, you're a connection now, because that feels gross. You know what I mean? That just doesn't feel right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
and that, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna bring up like, it was funny at GDC. People went up to the brainstorm booth, and a lot of them, they didn't really know what we were, so a lot of people like thought we were like an art studio because we had like a bunch of art books out, and there was a bunch of student work. So they would be like excited a little bit because they're like, oh, an art studio, I need like some art assets or like 3D modeling, 2D as well, or concepts and stuff. So that was pretty funny. And then another thing I noticed when I talked to a lot of like students enrolled in like art programs, a lot of them studying 3D, or their main 3D tool, a lot of these students are using Maya still. Yeah. Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, like, you know, if you're an industry, like if you're a modeler, right? Like, yeah, Maya's perfect. Or I mean, I don't know if it's perfect, but it's better than Blender is basically what I'm trying to say. But as a concept artist, it's like we never need Blender skill or a Maya skills, right? It's not to say never, but it is a lot less in demand than Maya skills, or than Blender skills. Concept artists usually just need Blender, right? I'm not saying that's always the case, but It is a lot. It is a big part of it where I don't know if, and that's the thing, right? They have to like learn this program that, you know, especially in like university level courses where it's like not even like relevant half the time. And I think that's like one of the biggest things where I'm like, cause I'll like, cause I talk to students pretty often. Right. And like, you're kind of communicating with these students and you'll hear some of the things that they're having to learn. I'm like, why are you learning that? That has nothing to do with anything. Like, oh, you're going to be a concept artist? Why are you in a Flash course? Who uses Flash nowadays? Even people that freaking 2D animate probably don't even use Flash anymore. You know what I mean? Like, not to mention a actual concept artist. Like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Not their fault, but you know, it's it's a lot of that where
And it's deprecated, isn't it?
yeah, it's just so like odd, you know. And on top of all that, it's just so like it's just a waste of time and money. And I don't know. I don't know how to fix that, right? I mean, obviously, you got to do your research at the end of the day. Like, you have to like, and I think that's why a big part of like, you know, building communities and stuff is so important. It's because, you know, people that join, let's say like my Discord, for example, right? Not saying join it, but it is free, right? Just join it. But it is a lot of like, you get to see what some of the students that are actually in a competitive, I guess, like in our field, like pretty competitive in our field, like what they're actually doing, right? Because some of the student, like in the finished work channel, right? We have people posting all the time, and some of them are actually working professionals at this point. I would say actually most of them are, to be honest, the ones that are posting, because you know they're just posting. But a lot of the finished people doing finished work, when you see that, right, that is a good example of what is probably expected of you, because I don't have any like super senior level artists. I have one person, well, one or two people, but most of the people that are pretty active in my Discord, they're like probably either advanced students, entry level concept artists, or probably approaching mid level, right? And that's exactly who you need to be aiming for, because you know that's the job. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're doing at work. And so when you join these communities, right, when you kind of become part of that, you know, just keep an eye out, look around, because it's so difficult. Like I remember for me, I was doing, so in 2013 is when I technically started doing art, because I was doing graphic design at my university. I was sneaking into AI. I don't know, sneaking. I just took their tour with no intention of going there, because even then, AI Art Institute had like a reputation, right? We know that reputation, but I went there because I had no idea about anything. So I was like, oh, let me go take their curriculum, right? Because they'll give you a sheet if you said, oh, I want to sign up for like, you know, digital. What is it? It was like some sort of like weird term. But anyway, it was basically their entertainment thing. You want to be an artist that does things for entertainment purposes. And then they give you a sheet of kind of what you're expecting to classes you're expecting to take. And me, just a University of Houston student, right? I had no idea what I was even supposed to be doing. Like, I didn't even know what VisCom was, you know? So I went to the school and I like, you know, grabbed the paper and I was like, okay, cool. What's perspective? I need to look that up. What's anatomy, this and that. And then like, I had to like kind of start self-learning that way. But then when I came out here to California, I started going to Noman, School of Visual Effects. And not that it's like the highest level of entertainment design, but it is, you know, higher than where I was at. And I was like so far behind, right? Just like just the general understanding of things. I just didn't even know what I didn't know, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't know. And it sucks to see that, right? Because you spent all this time, you know, trying to get better or whatever, and to learn that, like, not that it's like not relevant or anything, but it just isn't what people normally do, or you're missing something like completely, right? Like, I didn't even know what form language was for like 2 or 3 years, you know, into my like learning career, you know what I mean? Or learning like into my like schooling process, right? I mean, as a concept artist, it's kind of important. You know what I mean? Like there's a level of importance to that topic, right? So being part of communities is so important because not only do you, for one, get to be part of some like cool people, but also, right, you get to see what the people that are competitive in like, I guess the job market right now, or I guess in the entry level market, are actually doing, right? If you see somebody doing something you're not doing, you should probably ask yourself why you're not doing it, you know? And if it's like, if there's a reason, sure. You know what I mean? If it's like, usually it's like, you know, you shouldn't be learning 3D if you don't know how to draw yet, right? You know, that's the general thing. But, you know, if you're like pretty good at drawing and you're, you know, you're not really understanding why you're not kind of finding some work or getting whatever opportunity, look at some of these people that are working and see like, wait, what are they doing? What's their thing? You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I think the biggest value from the Discord really is. You get to see what others are actually doing, you know? Not that we should be comparing. That's not the point. But it's a good measure.
On an unrelated note, I'm actually preparing to like get some prints ready for sale.
Dope, dude.
Yeah.
Nice. What are you selling it on?
Didn't really determine that yet, but I did order a printer, which is by Canon.
Dude, you should have told me, man. I'm selling my printer.
Oh shit.
Should have asked me, dude. Did not even consult me. How dare you? It's all good.
Do you guys have like specialty printers?
Oh, I do. I don't know about G, but I do. I bought a nice, like, you know, just a higher end printer to kind of do all the prints I did for like Lightbox and all the other conventions I've been doing. I've had it for a couple years now.
What's the model?
Canon Pro Image ProGraph 300.
Oh damn. I was actually considering that, but I picked IP8720.
Nice. I don't know about that one, but I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, but I'll take into that consideration once I determine to upgrade my printer.
Nice. It's a good printer. For those that I guess for those getting into it, it is nice. There is a bigger one. There's a couple bigger ones actually, but it's good. It prints like 11 by 17 and right out of 13 by 19 is the biggest, and yeah, it does it pretty well. I like it a lot. I will say for those doing prints, I'd recommend like not printing. You know, just go to a dude. It's cool. Like in the beginning, it's really nice. I think for me, one of the biggest things was like, I can kind of print whenever I wanted, which was really cool. It was like, oh dude, yeah, I can, you know, do all this and that, whatever. And it was great. But then it's a printer. There's a lot of issues with printers. For those that don't know, printing fucking sucks. I'll say it like that. But you know, it's you know, printers have issues for whatever reason. Doesn't want to connect, paper jams, ink things, random problems. So I'm sure it's gonna be great, but you know, I don't know if like once I sell mine right now, like I don't think I'm ever gonna buy one again. I'm probably just gonna order it from somewhere.
And for the comps, I mean, I think you've seen it already on finished work. Finally got to finish like everything.
Dope, dude.
5 comp, yeah.
I think like finishing is like such a big I don't know, like milestone, right? Like because with like, for example, with like classes and stuff, right? Like you know, I'll give people a final, like finals are next week, right? For example, if one of my students listening, I'll see you tomorrow. But you know, it's I think finishing things is so actually difficult to do. It's but it's a skill that you have to like learn, because I'll talk to some people where I'm like, oh yeah, you know, you're Your images look okay, right? They're kind of like a mid-level painting. I asked them like, hey, how many paintings have you ever like actually finished? And it's usually like less than like 10, generally speaking, right? Not always, but like for students and stuff, like where you said, if I actually put more time into this, I don't think it would actually be any better. You know what I mean? Like that's the level of finish we're looking for. Not that like, oh yeah, I called this painting done or these paintings done, so hundreds. You know what I mean? It's like, no, it's not that. It's the like, you know, you actually cannot take it any further without assistance, right? That's what we're kind of looking for. And like finishing a painting, taking it as far as you can, it is one of the biggest things. I think as students, one of the easiest things to do, right, is studies. Because I encountered, especially in my classes, because I teach world building 2 or taught world building 2 and entertainment design, I get a lot of students that are really good at the thumbnailing process. And this is you know, definitely, you know, listen. They're really good at the thumbnail process. So like when I tell, hey, give me 100 thumbnails or give me 50 thumbnails or whatever, they're like, oh yeah, cool. And they'll bust it out and they'll like, you know, they'll kill it. And I'm like, wow, oh shit, oh, that's cool, you know? And it's a really cool thing to see, right? But I'll be like, cool, I like this one, take that to finish. And the gap between from like 0 to like that thumbnail is like huge, right? They're really good at it. And then that gap between from when I picked to finish is like that big. Like it's tiny. It's just like they kind of added some leaves or they kind of just threw on some cleaner brush strokes. You know what I mean? And it's usually a lack of actually finishing assignments that kind of gets you in that position, right? It's a lot of like, because you've only ever gone to that loose thumbnail stage, you've never had to actually like paint something. And then when you get to work, and this is what I was actually saying earlier, when you actually start working, it is a horrible time because they're like, hey, can you finish this? And then, you know, we're expecting like high end, you know, concept artwork or whatever, and you get like basically just a borderline thumbnail. You know, I've had like, thank God for my seniors or my art directors and stuff, but they, you know, I've had people have to like finish my paintings for me, especially in the beginning. And for those that don't know, that's very common. That is super common. That's not like, it's not offensive or anything. I mean, you know, you shouldn't be happy about it, but it's actually pretty common for your painting to actually go to somebody else because, you know, maybe your idea was pretty good, but maybe your fidelity wasn't high enough, or maybe like whatever, like, you know, you just are unable to take this to the level that is adequate. Right. And that happens. Obviously don't, you know, I guess get too offended by that. It is what it is. But yeah, it's a lot of like just having to kind of deal with that fact of, you know, your painting quality might not be high enough compared to, let's say, a senior level artist on the project, right? And that's, you know, that's understandable, right? Like that makes sense. Like, you know, of course you're not going to be as good as the senior, right? But it's a lot of like, you need to kind of start figuring out like, okay, so how do I get better at this? And oftentimes it's exactly what I'm doing now, right? 300, 400% zoom, and you're just going. Like I'm just talking, and we've been talking for like the last 2 hours, right? Ish. And I've been doing this for, you know, the same spot, and I'm not even like actually done with it. You know what I mean? Like for those that are like watching, you're probably, this is boring as shit, right? But this is what it is. You zoom in and you clean shit up, you know? And you'd actually be surprised how difficult of a task people kind of find that, you know. But like, you know, I'm just cruising. This is like my favorite part of an assignment. Not favorite, but you know, I actually don't like thumbnailing as much. I like I just go in and you just start figuring shit like that. Like what's happening? You know what I mean? Like what's happening here? You know, and you know you could go and figure things out. And like, you know, I spent, I don't know, 2 hours ish, probably like an hour and a half really, on this kind of like center section here, right? It's getting better. It's not there yet, but it is getting better. And we're just slowly doing stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, it takes a while. Rendering is a a whole other beast that you're gonna have to kind of start figuring out. But when you do, it's really nice. I think for a while, when I first started, or not first started, when I was first starting working, I was having a really hard time kind of finishing paintings to an adequate level. But once I did, then I started kind of racking up the numbers. Like it started becoming something that was like super, like, I won't say relaxing, but like it was pretty, it was kind of nice. You know what I mean? Like I was just painting. It was just relaxing. I just go in there. I'm not even thinking that much. Like I said before, where like if I'm having a full conversation with you, I'm probably not too focused on this painting. Not that I'm not, but like, you know, there's a level of ease that kind of happens because of you know, I'm just going. You know what I mean? Especially because I have a reference, I have everything I need. We're just cruising, man. You know. Speaking of which, we're almost done.
I've always had a hard time with the composition stage, and finalizing has not been an issue since you had shown me or talked to me about the simple needs of just zooming in. And I'm only just now coming around to feeling like my composition skills are improving.
Was this that one session during class that one day? The one I just randomly did? Damn, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't know. So for those that, or I guess for everybody, like it was just some random day that I was like, hey, you want to hop on a thing? And we just kind of hung out during class. Not during our class. It was like outside of like, it was a Discord hangout, I believe, outside of class hours. And I just grabbed people's paintings and just started painting on them. And then like, I mean, in my mind, it was basically nothing, right? In his mind, it sounded like it was fucking life-changing. But
I don't know. It just you showed me a couple of things that I hadn't seen before, and I really had to apply in order to figure out what the heck to do, and that was enough to kind of set me off to the next stage. So
nice. That's good. I'm always surprised by like because like I'll talk to like some of my students now are working and, you know, or have been working for a couple of years, and it's so interesting like hearing what clicks and what, because in my mind I'm like, dude, like I have classes that I'll teach, or like weeks that I'll teach where I'm like, oh yeah, this is the winner. This is the class that I'm like, dude, yeah, this you don't want to miss this kind of class, right? And then like I'll talk to some of my students later and then be like, oh yeah, when you said this random thing, it like changed my world. I'm like, what? How did you know what I mean? And half the time I'm like, I don't want to say it like this, but I was like, I don't want to say I'm messing around, but it wasn't that serious of a conversation, you know. But and it's interesting because, you know, when people kind of take different things from stuff that you say, and I think that's one of my more one of the things that I actually enjoy the most about teaching, where it's like, you know, when you were talking, right, just like this is exactly it, right? Well, I'm just randomly, I don't want to say random, but, you know, I'm just saying things that may or may not be relevant to whoever's listening. And a lot of times I find that it resonates more, right? My classes, I always say, like, you know, you're going to get the World Building 2 experience, right? Or ENT1 or whatever class I'm teaching. But it's these conversations right now that I'm actually more interested in. I really don't care too much about, you know, I guess just covering whatever topic I'm paid to cover. It's a lot of like these little things that you just don't really know, right? Or things that you wouldn't know because you don't learn that in class or whatever. You know what I mean? And that's what like this whole live stream was kind of built on, where like these conversations are, in my opinion, pretty like life-changing. I feel. I don't know. I don't know if you guys feel about that. Maybe I'm just talking shit. Who knows? But, you know, oftentimes we're, you know, I'm just kind of talking, but these are things that no teacher talks about or nobody actually explains to students because it's something that's missed, right? Where it's like, you know, we just do it. Ooh, there you go. Sorry. Like a big thing is when professionals work, we don't always realize like what we're doing, right? Because we're just doing it at this point. You know, you never really know like what I guess what thing that kind of got you through certain aspects or certain like parts in your career. You know what I mean? Like it's very sometimes you just forget that you had that problem, and I do that all the time where I'll be interacting with a student or whatever, and I'll forget that I used to struggle with that or whatever, you know? And it's like I like these conversations a lot, especially just like freeform ones where people just kind of ask whatever because because for one, I know it's relevant, right? Because when I say something, whenever I bring up a topic, you know, the people that are currently listening, right, it might not matter because, you know, maybe they're all high enough level to where they get it, so it doesn't really affect anybody, right? So it's just me talking. But when somebody actually asks something, right, when somebody actually says something, it's like, dude, yeah, because they're probably having that struggle, or they're probably trying to figure out, you know, whatever thing associated with that, right? So I don't know. It's nice. I never really know what resonates with people, but you know, I guess if you talk enough, eventually you'll resonate with somebody, right? So
That's true.
yeah,
The right person needs to hear it.
you just keep talking. That's all it is. Just don't stop. Cool.
Just replying to your conversation a while ago about focusing on the subjects that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Riley has teased me a couple of times because I can never fully invest in one thing or the other for character or environment. But I'm pretty confident at this point that I do prefer character.
Nice.
It just is so hard because I think there's a little bit of merit to the whole character design is too competitive. I knew that it's competitive everywhere and jobs are limited, so you should do what you enjoy. And I do think I just have enjoyed learning, but now I see the studios and I see how small the rosters are, and I'm thanking myself for grinding just being a generalist overall.
You know, it's
Those skills have
such
paid off.
it's such a weird thing. I think like because I was taught, you know, everybody that I knew was always told me, and I'm even kind of torn on what advice to give people oftentimes of like, should you be a specialist or a generalist? You know what I mean? And you know, it's weird. So I think we've had this conversation before where it's like, oh yeah, you should be a specialist because, you know,
Oh yeah.
you need to be, you know, you need to be good enough to be hired at a thing, and you know there's merit to that, but also the longevity of having, I guess, being, I guess, a generalist, right? Somebody that can do a little bit of everything, right, is a super powerful thing. Like I think for me, my earlier career, right, I had a lot of issues actually finding work. Not issues, but I mean, I guess they would be issues, right? I just wasn't finding them that easily, right? I'd interview with places, and then they're like, "Well, we don't really know what to hire you for." I'm like, anything, you know what I mean? I'll take that, you know? It's like, I'll do most things, you know? But they were like, well, we need someone that's actually really good at this one thing or whatever. And so a lot of my beginning career was that. It was like, you're just not good enough to be hired somewhere, right? You're just not good enough to be, you know, I guess, working at this place because you don't have the skill necessary to be there, essentially, right? But once you kind of get past this like hurdle of like skill level, because the thing about like in the students kind of, and I actually had this conversation in one of my classes a couple weeks back, because the idea of generalist versus specialist kind of got brought up, or was it here? I don't know. But the idea was, oh, should I be a generalist or a specialist? And I think for me, when students say generalist, I don't think they really understand how high of a bar that actually is. Because when a student specializes, right? Like a student level artist, when they specialize in a topic, they're still probably not as good as a generalist professional. You know what I mean? Like the bar for finding work is so damn high that most students actually will not be able to kind of get to that bar within a reasonable amount of time. I'm not saying it's impossible, but generally speaking, students just don't have the capabilities to kind of get to that bar in a reasonable amount of time, right? In the amount of time given to be a student, right? And so when I tell students that they should probably be specialists, it's because you need to get one skill up to a certain degree. But when you actually become a professional, you should actually probably start branching into other things, learning other skills, getting better at this and that or whatever, because now that you're good at one thing, you can start bringing all the other skills up to make you more valuable in a studio or as a professional as a whole. But when students talk about it, they really don't understand how high that generalist bar actually is, right? When they're like, oh, I want to be a general or I want to be a specialist, most professional generalists are better than student specialists, if that makes sense, right? You're just not at that quality. So in the beginning stages, it's really difficult to find work because you're just not, I guess, quite there yet. You know what I mean? Like you just haven't had enough time. But after a while, right, getting your skill level to getting multiple skill levels to a marketable, degree, right? Usually, I guess can happen relatively, I don't say easily, but generally speaking, given enough time, you'll probably get there, And I think for me, one of the biggest issues I had before was I had a more generalist kind of portfolio, and it was really hard to find work. But nowadays, right, I actually, I don't want to say get work. I don't want to say easily. That sounds cocky. But generally, I don't really have trouble finding work like I used to anymore, right? Not that it's like not slow or anything or anything like that. Not that it's never slow or like I'm like raking it in or anything. But generally speaking, finding work is a lot easier than it was whenever I first started, just because the skill set behind my, I guess, multiple things is usually enough to kind of get me to where I need to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really I don't know. It's that skill bar that we're kind of talking about, right? It's like it's weirdly high, and it's like just all you got to do for everybody, right? Trying to find work, trying to get to wherever you need to go. For everybody, just get that bar, like just clear that bar with one skill. Because if you do, you'll probably find work relatively quickly. Not quickly, but just you'll probably find work, right? It's when you don't clear that bar is when you kind of you find a lot of those issues, right? I think like I tell a lot of my students all the time where in the beginning it's crickets. It sucks, but it is crickets. Like if you're not good enough, if you're not really quite at that level yet, even if you're like doing all the stuff, the industry has a way of telling you you're not quite ready, right? Because you're just not hearing anything. No one says anything. But as soon as you do, oftentimes you'll find that you'll start getting more calls, more meetings, and this and that. Like you'll out of nowhere, like, and this probably happened to a lot of people where you're just going through your day, and you post like one new artwork that you did, right? Just something, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, right, your calls start actually being taken seriously, right? Your applications start actually getting noticed. There's something about it, right? Like, and usually it's probably that thing, whatever painting that you did, right? Your work starts getting a lot more traction, right? And that's when you kind of know you're approaching that level, because if you're not quite there yet, every time you apply, crickets, nothing's gonna happen, right? Unfortunately. But all of a sudden, you get one call back, right? You're like, okay, cool, let's go in for the interview. And you're probably not even going to land that one. But they deemed the portfolio good enough to be like, okay, let's give them a call, or a chance or whatever. Let's kind of see more about it. And sometimes there's better applicants or whatever, right? But once you get that call, now it's in your mind. You should really be telling yourself, okay, that quality was actually good, right? It was actually where it needed to be. And then from there, it's like rinse and repeat, right? Kind of keep whatever you did before, do it again, and try to build that skill a little bit higher, because now you're on that threshold. It tells you, the industry will tell you when you're good enough or not. And unfortunately, it can take a long time. Unfortunately, it can be a terrible experience. But that's it. I don't want to say it is what it is, but I mean, that's, it is. So
I've always tried just setting by that philosophy that once your work is good enough, things will come.
Yeah.
And people just can't seem to sit with it.
Yeah.
They refuse to believe it, that no, it's the algorithm, it's all networks, it's all connections, which, albeit connections is probably still 75% of it. The other 25 is you have to be professional level. But I still get like posts on Reddit from the Learn Art subreddit community that's filled with people saying how Instagram is rigged and it's impossible for artists to have any sort of following. And you try and go and look up some of these people complaining about how Instagram doesn't respect or care about artists, and not necessarily people that you would expect would be receiving a high following of attention based on what is popular or what people want to see.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of the sentiment just comes from people's inability to recognize truly where they're at.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's tough. Like, you don't want to, like, to say that you've, like, because I'll have conversations with like artists, like, where they maybe they're looking for a portfolio review or whatever, and they've been through 4 years of college, and they're they have a degree, and that they've been looking for work or whatever, and it's really hard to hear that you are at the starting line of what most professionals are actually, or most students are actually at. You know what I mean? And this comes back to what I was saying about, like, the importance of being part of a community, because it tells you, like, how far you actually are. Because when you see somebody posting, not that we should be comparing, but there is a level of comparison that needs to happen. You need to understand, like, hey, I'm not even close to that level, and that person's having a hard time finding work or whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's just like, you got to know. You just have to understand what, all these things actually mean. But, it happens all the time where, because I'll do a portfolio review for a student, or for, somebody at a convention, wherever. And I'd be like, I mean, you have like 4 years left, 3 years left. And like, I just finished college. What are you talking about? I'm like, I mean, there's nothing I can do about that, So it's difficult to hear sometimes, but that's what it is. It's, you really have to kind of put your head out there and kind of look around and see, like, hey, what's expected of me, right? As a student that is trying to find work, or whatever, what do people actually need to see? Because if you're not showing it, if you're not even doing what most students of your caliber, your level, your experience are doing, you're not even in the race, and that's, it sucks. But I mean, that's the reality. And that's the shitty thing about universities, because they'll set you up to be like, oh, hey, yeah, like, you can probably get a degree doing this here or whatever, and then they take your money, and then all of a sudden, you're just, I guess left to dry, just because you graduated, the transaction's over, but in reality, you're probably like barely starting in you're like barely getting somewhere in your professional, I guess, skill set, right? Yeah, I hate universities. So I don't know if that's clear with anybody here. But it's a, you know, most places just not even like shit. I mean, I would say I don't know any art school, and I say any, and including ones that I've taught at, like, you know, where it's the only place you need to be. You know what I mean? I don't know anywhere that's like that. So if you're a student that has only been in one place, right, has only taken classes at this like one place, expecting them to kind of carry you the whole way, that will not happen. I don't want to say it like that, but it is just not a thing that is going to happen for you. I'm not saying it won't happen. It's just a lot harder to do it that way. If you're, you know, I guess, a student at a place, right, wherever you're at, regardless of where you're at, like, don't get FOMO because you're not at art center. Don't get FOMO because you're not at certain places, because those places barely get you qualified as well. And a lot of times the people that kind of come out of those places that are actually qualified, it's usually because of them, not because of art center, not because of like the curriculum itself. Obviously with art center or like higher end places, you do have, I guess, the kind of, I don't want to say comparison, but the ability to see what actual industry professionals are like, so you understand what level you actually should be at. But that doesn't mean that, you know, going to this place will actually, you know, fix your problem, you know. And that goes for everywhere, right? And like when I was taking classes, I was taking classes at like 3 or 4 different schools. I was taking like 5 or 6 classes at once. Obviously, some of them were easier classes than others, right? But a lot of it really was like, hey, I just saw this class online and I'm just trying to learn something, you know what I mean, or whatever. And then you meet people that way, and then you learn new topics that way, and it's such a better approach to, I guess, schooling, that it just makes you able to kind of understand what the industry is kind of expecting out of you as a student, you know. Yeah, so don't take classes at one place. They just can't do it for you. They won't be able to. All right, we're getting a little long in the tooth here. Let's see. So, see, pretty cool. We're getting here, right? I think so. Like I said before, right? This is going to be a process that takes forever. Rendering really does take a good amount of time, but you just have to zoom in, right? I don't think I did anything else. I might have touched like the main building like slightly, but let me. Do I have a version where I can show you? Is this it? Was this it? I think so. This is what I did last week, I believe. I believe I ended at this point here. And then like now I just did the one spot. I mean, I did some other changes before stream, right? This is some of the changes that you're seeing here. I just kind of did like today. But all the main changes were kind of happening in that kind of alleyway area. And like, I'm still not even done. You know what I mean? But the thing is, it was a lot easier because I just had a photo, right? I didn't copy it exactly. Oh shit. You know what I mean? But like, I mean, it's kind of close. You know what I'm saying? And like, I would just kind of keep going with this for probably another like 2 or 3 hours. And that's one section of it, right? And then I would do that again for, here, I'll show you. I do that again for here. Oops, let's do that in red. I do that again for here. And then I do that again up here. And right there, that's like, so this was 2 hours-ish, right? You know, I was talking shit half the time. If I was just like kind of like actually working, it'd probably be, I won't say done, but closer to done. And then like that'd probably be another like hour-ish. There's a lot less going on here. Once you get that billboard in there, you're probably good. And then here, right, I'd probably spend 2 or 3 hours on that. And then just this section alone would probably kind of hold the painting together. Once I, this, you know, over the next however much time, I'm going to finish this and show you, you know, like I usually do. I'll show you kind of what it looks like with just the pieces, like the foreground, and the focal points. And then I'll show you what it looks like where I actually kind of address more of the kind of side stuff. So I'll actually do it in a very methodical order and kind of like screenshot it as I go, just to kind of show you what that is. So hopefully the next time I stream, I'll kind of have that ready for you. But you can kind of see how much, I guess, zooming in you actually need to do, right? Like obviously this isn't like a rule of thumb or anything, but I usually try to aim for about like 300% zoom. Like right here, when you actually zoom in, it'll show you your document. You're at 300%. That's probably where I would start being, right? Because any closer you start seeing like the pixels and stuff, that's too close, right? But you know, like 300%, you probably get a good amount. 400%, you know, that's probably as far as I would be. And then from there, just paint, just figure shit out. Like, you know what I mean? Like I started figuring out this box right here. You know, obviously I still need to do that with these as we're going, right? I have this kind of started to move and then we're just kind of cruising at this point, but it's easy, right? It's not, well, I guess it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy, right? And this is kind of where it just takes time, right? But you need to give it the time, because a lot of times, like when you're taking classes and stuff, it's done when the teacher says it's done, right? When you're like, oh shit, it's week 10 or whatever, and you have to like actually just submit it at this point, right? You know, really like give it time. I think one of my first paintings, not first paintings, but one of the paintings that it took me a while to kind of finish. It took me like 2 or 3 months to actually like do, just because I would go home and I would just render. You just zoom in and just start rendering things, and it took forever. But that's the reality, right? That's what it is at the end of the day. You have to get in there and actually do the work. It's not much. It's not a big, you know, I guess, super extremely shortcut way advice or anything like that, but it's the truth, right? It's, you get in there, you zoom in, and you clean it up. This skill, right? This ability is like everything. Right? For those of you like doing the assignment with me or whatever, a lot of it really is like, just get in there and paint it, right? There's this allergicness to like actually zooming in oftentimes that I see from from students. And it's usually because they don't actually know how far they should actually go with it. And I'm not even saying this is like it, right? I mean, I'd probably just start doing a weathering pass and doing all sorts of stuff like that. But for now, it's like, you know, it's noticeably sharper in that area comparatively to what we had before, right? In just that one section, there's like 5 or 6 different materials. There's a bunch of different things there, all built off of, you know, just one reference. And I'm gonna go find a reference for this building here, right? Whatever that billboard is supposed to look like. I'm gonna find a reference for this catwalk type thing right here, and then, you know, some sort of reference like maybe a payphone type thing here, and then we're designing it out piece by piece, using something from life to kind of give that relatability. And then from here, right, we're basically done. So, but hopefully that made sense, right? This level design is, you know, a lot of the times, especially like I was saying in the beginning, where we don't really do that, right? We don't design the levels because that's somebody else's job. But we do have to know what they're thinking and what they're doing. So when we take their level design blockouts and actually, you know, paint on top and actually make it look good, right? You have to at least know what they mean and what they're trying to say. You know what I'm saying? And then once you get that, you're going to be in pretty good shape. But you have to know that it exists, right? From the initial blockout that we did this week, right, to whatever this thing was, right? Trying to establish the form language, right? Going from here, it makes a lot of sense. You're like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And then this was me just kind of figuring things out. I didn't really know how the form language was going to look. I didn't plan anything ahead of time, but I was just kind of struggling through it, just like normal. And then we actually got to something that actually kind of looks okay, but it's still very sterile. And then from that kind of more sterile section, right, where we have the understanding of storefronts and like an entrance way and this and that, we want to actually start making it a real place. And I would do this for the next, 20 hours or whatever it is, something like this. I'd probably charge, if I was like freelancing or something, for about a week's worth of work. So that's 40 hours worth of work essentially. and that's that's generally how long it would take. About a week's worth of time to take this from start to finish, or I guess rendering wise. As a professional, right? So that's kind of where I'm going with it. I'm gonna keep going with it, but we're out of time for today. So, with that in mind, right? I did want to kind of remind everybody. I am gonna be taking this April off. If you're in the Livestream Plus, we do still have one more feedback session, so don't worry about that. But as far as the public live streams go, we're gonna be taking a break for April because I am gonna be moving. I'd rather just kind of hold off and come back and make something better. We did already vote on the next topic, and let me check real quick to make double sure. It is going to be a mixture between world building and form language. We kind of got a tie this past voting session, so I'm gonna kind of do a mix of that. It's gonna be pretty easy to kind of mix the two. They're very related, right? So. If you want to join in the Livestream Plus, obviously don't sign up now. I'm going to be closing that for this coming month, so I don't charge people essentially. But I'll announce it again. We're going to be doing world building and form language for May, right? So just like normal, 4 weeks, feedback sessions every Monday. I'll announce all the timing and stuff since my time zone is going to be a little bit different. I'll kind of see how all of that works out. You won't be in the dark. I'll let you know ahead of time, probably in the next coming week or two, as I kind of figure things out. So, but yeah, we're gonna be on break. Thanks for a great March. Thanks for a great past year, 6 months. I think I've been doing this since I picked it up again in October or something like that. And a lot of the paintings we've been doing has been great. I've been really enjoying it too, and seeing what some of the other people are doing as well has been really cool. Seeing the growth and the I guess the level ups, because a lot of the people that actually are doing this right in let's say the Livestream Plus, or even some of the people that are doing on the side and just sending to me, usually you're actually not missing the skills, right? Obviously, if you're a more beginner, if you're kind of learning your fundamentals, you keep doing that, right? But for those of you that are kind of in this weird in between where you can usually create whatever painting you want, but for whatever reason, you're not really getting any calls, right? It's usually a lot of thinking that happens. And that's really what all this is about, right? Trying to expand your understanding, get you to think better, to get you to design better, find reference better. Because that's what we do as actual professionals. I'm not really worried about my perspective. I'm not really worried about my color theory because I already know how to do that, I'm not the best at it, right? But I'm at an adequate level to where it communicates effectively, right? And so for a lot of the people that are kind of participating as well, most of them can actually draw pretty well. They know how to paint, they know how to kind of design, but it's they're missing little key pieces. Like today, for example, that one thing of finding a real life place and just dropping it in. I don't want to say not photo bashing it in, but just referencing 100%. It's so weird because you wouldn't think about it, right? And it's such a simple concept, but it is game changing. I highly recommend trying that for anybody doing their thing. If you have some sort of walkway, find a similar walkway in real life. See, look at it and see what the little nuances are, right? And these little things really kind of push you in the right direction, or at least from what I've been seeing has been pushing people in the right direction. So definitely check it out if you want. There's a free 1 week trial if you're interested, but wait till May, right? We're gonna do it in May. But yeah. So with that in mind, thank you so much for hanging out this past March. Hopefully some level design things have been communicated. I'm going to be finishing this up over the kind of month and actually give this the attention that it needs as I'm kind of transitioning into my new space and things like that. So hopefully we have some cool things to come. So with that in mind, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in May. Later. Oh. Can't get my mouse over there.